bum ba bum 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 bum. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy here. I went from depressed and suicidal to living a life of abundance and joy and making weird sound effects during my intros. If I can do it, you sure as hell can too. In my coaching program, in the last probably 2 months, we've had 3 different people that have ended a relationship. One of them was serious, one of them was casual, and another one of them was casual as well. And had some people maybe not handle it brilliantly or be a little upset and hurt by that. And so I thought it would be an interesting time to sit down and talk about the fact that, yeah, sometimes when you end a relationship with someone, even if it's just a casual relationship, you were casually dating and then you don't see each other anymore, sometimes the other person has a very emotional reaction to that. And in the case of these 3 particular people, one was a guy that was ending sort of a longer term relationship, and the woman gave a very sort of angry, spiteful, hateful reaction to something that he said. This is like a week or so after they've already ended things. Another was a guy who ended a casual relationship and had a friend of the person that he was dating send him a very unnice text about how he deserves misery and unhappiness and he's a piece of shit. And we had a woman in the coaching program who ended something with a guy that she was seeing very casually, and he seemed very disappointed, a little bit bummed, and maybe a little bit, I don't know that I'd use the word clingy, but wanted to keep in contact with her and messaged her on a few different apps and things like that. And this is something that can happen when you end a relationship, even a casual one, Not everybody necessarily handles a breakup or the ending of a relationship, and this applies to friendships ending as well. Not everyone handles that brilliantly and rationally and logically, and fair enough. And it's usually because there are expectations. The person expected that they were going to keep seeing you, and then they feel a little bit shocked. They feel a little bit stupid. They feel silly. They feel like, oh man, I had all these ideas in my head of like all these expectations that we were going to keep seeing each other, and now we're not, and I'm going to lash out. Generally speaking, human beings don't like their expectations not being met, or they don't like when reality doesn't line up with their fairy tales about that reality. Which is why I talk a lot about Buddhism and non-attachment and just not having expectations and instead aligning yourself with reality rather than the way that you think reality should go. And especially in the context of a relationship, kind of having that mindset of, I will see this person for as long as they're happy to see me. And if that's a lifetime, wonderful. If that's 10 years, wonderful. If that's 1 year, wonderful. If that's 1 week, wonderful. And I will do my best to facilitate their happiness. I will do my best to facilitate my own happiness. I will try and have it so that we both add to each other's lives. And if we end up not seeing each other after a certain point in time, beautiful. That is the mindset that I've had with my girlfriend Imogen. We've been dating, we're in a partnership or relationship for the last 6 years, but at no point have I had expectations that she will always be there. I would love it if she is always there. She would love nothing more than to have me always there, but I don't expect it. I don't put that burden or that pressure on her that she should always be there and that I won't be okay if she's not there. And that pressure or those expectations is what does lead people to feel very emotional if a relationship, even just a casual one, or a friendship, or a business partnership, or any kind of relationship, any kind of connection, if it ends. It's that expectation. In other words, it's that attachment. And that's what attachment is. It's attaching to a certain expectation, or you wanted a certain outcome and you got very attached to that. You told yourself a story of you need that to happen, or you want that to happen, and you won't be happy if that doesn't happen. And then when reality came along and said, hey, this relationship is going to end, your expectation or your fairy tale or your idea of how you wanted things to go, that's no longer happening. Like life is moving in a different direction. This person is leaving, or this person has, already left. You can feel very emotional if you're very attached to that. And I'm going to bring up my favorite quote. Again, this comes from my best mate. And I've talked about this quote in previous videos. Let me hold it so the light's not on it. But I have no expectations, only curiosity. In other words, if you can let go of attachment, if you can just be in a relationship or a friendship and not have any expectations of how it's supposed to go, if you can just be grateful for every moment and be present in every moment and be able to look at the other person and say, man, I'm just glad that you're here right now. And if you're not here tomorrow, that's okay. You're here right now, and I'm going to make the most of it. If you can just let go of some of those expectations, man, when someone does end something with you, if they do end a friendship or a relationship, you might be hurt, you might be sad, you might grieve, you might have stories in your head, but you're not so fucking attached to the idea or the expectation that they were going to be there forever. In other words, if you can let go of expectations, you're not surprised if they do end up breaking up with you. You're not caught off guard. I think people tell themselves a story when it comes to relationships, even casual ones, that a relationship has to be forever. A friendship has to be forever. A job has to be forever. And if we actually look around us in the real world, that is not the reality. People divorce. In fact, the vast majority, or more than 50% of marriages, at least in the West, end up in divorce. Most of your friends that you probably have, if any of you are in your 30s or 40s or 50s or older, most of the friends that you have now, I'll rephrase that a different way. The friends that you had when you were in school, you're probably not friends with 100% of those people. And for some of you, like myself, I'm not friends with a single one of the people that I went to school with. I've made new friends. If you think through the people that you might have dated, you're probably not with all of those people. So you've probably ended things, or they've ended things, or you've moved on, or they've moved on, or whatever, with at least some of those people, if not most of those people. But yet, a lot of media, TV, books, everything really attaches to this idea of like the soulmate or the one or the person who's going to complete you, as if you can't just complete yourself and another person can be a beautiful bonus. It's like, let me put the burden of my happiness onto someone else. I'll attach to that person and I'll have these expectations that they will be there for me. They'll always be there. We'll make each other happy. They'll be my honey boo boo, and there'll never be a single moment where, you know, they're off doing their own thing. They'll just be by my side permanently. And I'm going to use them and cling onto them and squeeze them for everything that I possibly can. Squeeze all the happiness juice out of them and milk the most of them. And how dare they ever have their own life? Or how dare they ever have their own wants or needs? Or how dare they ever even consider ending things with me? And I think that's, generally speaking, the way that most people view relationships, as this like attachment, this like desperate neediness, and this other person completing me. And I'm going to put the burden of my happiness on them. I'm going to use them for happiness rather than seeing them as a sovereign individual and, you know, someone additional to your life, and giving yourself your own happiness, being your own source of happiness. In other words, self-love. And along with that, I think most of society, maybe I can say that statement. Most of society views breakups as a bad thing, and they view the person breaking up as a bad person. You know, that person is breaking your heart. And with that kind of extreme language, God, no wonder people take breakups so harshly. No wonder they feel hurt, destroyed, blah, blah, blah. And all of their friends, the very first thing they'll say if they, you know, go to their friends and say, hey, this person broke up with me, that scared the shit out of me, by the way. The thing that I held up before, the I have no expectations, only curiosity, that just fell onto the floor and scared the shit out of me. Because I had an expectation that that wasn't going to happen, see? And anyway, most people, when they go through a breakup, they'll go to their friends and they'll say, oh, this person broke up with me. What is the first thing that the friends will say? Oh my God, that's so terrible. That's awful. Oh my God, you poor thing. Oh my God, that sucks. That is the first thing that people say. That sucks. And so no wonder people have this strong emotional, visceral reaction to a breakup, because everyone around them constantly is saying that breakups are a bad thing, that they are the worst thing for you ever. They don't have to be. They can be a wonderful end to a wonderful chapter. I mean, think about it like this. Can you think of any examples where a breakup could be a good thing? Like, pause the video if you want to and think of any time when a breakup could be a good thing. Here's one. You're in a domestic violence relationship and you end up breaking up, or they break up with you. Wonderful, great. Now I get to leave this relationship and move on to happier ones and have healthier boundaries for myself and all of that. That sounds beautiful. Maybe you're in a relationship where you're just not a great fit for each other. You care about each other very deeply, but you move on and you go find someone who's much better suited towards you or to you, and you build something beautiful together. There you go. That's another point where a breakup could be a good thing. But there's this default assumption that breakups are awful, bad, terrible. They broke your heart. He's an asshole. She's a bitch, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you poor thing. Oh, that sucks. How are you feeling? You must be hurting. And so no wonder people get emotional and angry, you know? And so again, to bring it back to these three examples, these three recent examples over the last like 2 or 3 months of the 3 clients in the program who've broken up with someone and the person's had a very negative reaction. As I said to them, look, maybe our mission is not to control the other person's reaction to the breakup. Like maybe it's not your business how they react. All our mission is, or our job is to be as kind and compassionate as we possibly can be when we break up with someone, to be as honest as we possibly can be without saying something that would hurt them. You know, again, that's the kindness and the compassion creeping in. And it's just our mission to be honest, kind, and compassionate. And then whatever reaction they have to that, that's the reaction that they have to that. In other words, it's not our business how someone reacts to us. And this applies to outside of a breakup as well. This applies to basically everything in life. It's not really your business how other people react to what you do, what you say, what you think, any of that. The only thing that I ever try and do in my life is be, like I said, honest, kind, and compassionate. And if somebody doesn't like what I have to say, or they don't like the way that I do business, they don't like the way that I have sex, they don't like the way that I live my life, then great. They're allowed to feel like that. I want them to feel like that. I want all of you to feel however the fuck you want to feel. In other words, I'm quite happy for people. It is my mission to let people have their feelings, whatever those feelings might be. It can be reverence for me. It can be love for me. It can be hatred for me. It can be disgust towards me, whatever that might be. And that absolutely applies in a breakup. And so anytime I'm ending things with someone, whether that's a casual relationship or a serious relationship, and how I actually end things would change depending on that, obviously. If it's a casual relationship where I've only seen someone once, then that's just a simple text. But if it's someone that I've been in a relationship with for 3 years, yeah, it's not going to be a fucking text message, is it? But when I'm ending things with someone, however they might feel at the end of that, that's up to them. That is their feelings. It's not up to me to dictate how they should feel or to try and control that or to try and control their reaction. I just try and be as honest, upfront, kind, and compassionate as I can be. And I guess you could phrase it like, let the cards fall where they may. And so that's basically what I said to, or what we said to all 3 of these coaching clients. And we were able to get them to sort of realize, look, you did everything you could have. You were as kind and compassionate as you could have been. And all 3 of them were unbelievably kind and compassionate. Very, very gentle with the breakup and very sweet. And they went like above and beyond. But the people just had an emotional reaction. And to be fair, if I believed everything that most people believe about relationships, I would have an emotional reaction too. You know, if I believed that this person is supposed to be there for me, a breakup is a bad thing. They're never supposed to break your fucking heart. If they break up with you, they're a bad person. Anytime someone ends a relationship when you wanted to keep it, then automatically they're a bad person because you want the relationship and they don't. So therefore they're a piece of shit because they don't want what you want. If I believed all of those things and more, and if I had all of my friends telling me that breakups suck, that's not fair, why would he do this to you? Or why would she do this to you? Oh, you poor thing. Oh, that's awful. If I had all of that stuff in my ear and all of TV and media and books and all of that kind of stuff talking about breakups as if they're like the end of your entire life, which is often how they're referred to, like breaking your heart, not making you feel a little bit sad for a couple of weeks or months or however long it takes you to move past it, breaking your heart. What an extreme use of language that is. No, here's how you break your heart. You get a hammer and a chisel and you fucking smash it in there, or you put a gun to your chest and shoot your heart. There you go. Now your heart's actually broken. Broken implies unfixable or very hard to fix. But someone breaking up with you is not breaking your heart. It's grieving, it's hurting, it's disappointment, it's frustration, it's sadness, any of that kind of stuff. But anyway, to get back on track, if I believed all of that stuff and if I had people constantly telling me, oh my God, breaking your heart, that's awful, then yeah, I would probably have a very emotional reaction too. And with that, we can have that compassion and that understanding. If we do end things with someone, we can say, if they have a very negative reaction, we can say, yeah, no wonder they have a negative reaction. All of society is telling them that breakups are a bad thing. Their friends are likely telling them that I'm a piece of shit. And as I said, with one of these clients that did end things with someone, it was actually the girl that he broke up with. It was her friend who got his number and sent him this long text message saying like, you're a piece of shit, blah, 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 blah. So Yeah, there you go. It's friends in your ear saying, oh, this guy's a piece of shit. He's an asshole. He's a bad person, blah, 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 blah. So we can kind of have that understanding as to how people or why people do have such an emotional reaction to breakups. There's all these different factors going on that lead to that frustration. More than anything, it's believing the story that breakups are a bad thing and that someone shouldn't break up with you and that whatever your expectations are, they should just happen because you want them, as if what we want is just what we always get and reality should just step out of the way and give us what we want. But we can have that understanding and then we can be as compassionate as we possibly can be when we break up with someone, and we can fully be okay with whatever it is that they might feel. And if they're sitting there and they're angry, we can be like, yeah, I understand. I would be angry too if I had expectations and they didn't get met. We can have that compassion. If they say that we're a piece of shit, we can say, yeah, I understand why you think that. Maybe you won't feel that way 3 months from now. Maybe you will. Who cares? It's not my responsibility. I'm not able to control your feelings. And even if I could, I wouldn't want to. That wouldn't be fair for you. That wouldn't be treating you like a sovereign individual. So therefore, if you are angry and sad, great. I want you to feel angry and sad. If you don't want to feel angry and sad anymore, then great. You can do something to move past that. But and maybe you would facilitate that if you wanted to. Maybe you would cut off all communication if you wanted to. That's entirely up to you. But we can have that beautiful empathy and that understanding and that compassion when we break up with someone, if we can kind of understand why they might be having a negative reaction. And by the way, maybe I could have put this at the start of the video, but that's not to say everyone has a negative reaction to a breakup. I know I didn't say that at the start, but yeah, these are just 3 sort of cherry-picked examples over the last 3 months of 3 particular people that had a negative or an emotional reaction to a breakup. But at least in my experience, if you're honest, if you're upfront, if you're kind and you're compassionate, I'm going to say like 80%, 90% of people take a breakup pretty damn well. They're like, hey, I really appreciate that. I'm a little disappointed, I'll be honest, but I really appreciate you being so upfront. Thank you for being so kind and compassionate. Thank you for caring about my feelings and saying this as nicely as you possibly could. I had a really fun time with you. I'm really glad we met. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you. And sometimes there's also emotion there, but also gratitude. I can think back to the last long-term relationship that I ended, which was like 5 years ago at this point. And when I broke up with her, we sat down for a couple of hours and talked it all through. She was very emotional. She was obviously disappointed. She was sort of a little surprised and caught off guard. But at the same time, she was incredibly grateful. And so sometimes people will feel gratitude and emotionality or sadness or shock or any of that, disappointment, any of that kind of stuff at the same time as gratitude. So I want to be very clear that don't fear breakups. Like, don't think, oh shit, like the other person's going to have a terrible reaction because Andy talked about 3 cherry-picked examples of negative reactions. I promise you, most people will react with a little bit of emotionality, maybe some gratitude. Some people might have a very emotional reaction. Some people will be like, cool, I really appreciate that. Thanks for letting me know. I hope you have a beautiful life. I'm glad I met you. All the best, especially if you're doing a lot of the stuff that I talk about, which is having a lot of gratitude, even in a casual relationship, praising the other person, often having a self-improvement mindset for the relationship, even if it's just a casual relationship, like even if you guys are literally just talking up, have the mindset of like, I want to make this better every week. I want to improve things. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to facilitate their growth as a human being. I want to facilitate their happiness. If you come at a relationship, even a casual relationship, with that sort of, I guess, libertarian mindset that I talk about, where you say to the other person, you're very honest and upfront, here's what I'm looking for. Does that sound good to you? Is that something you want? If you come at it so that you've both entered into this relationship or this casual relationship with eyes wide open, you both know what you want, you're both looking for the same thing, you're both happy to see each other and see where things go, then yeah, generally speaking, if it ends, the other person will have nothing but gratitude for you. And again, maybe a little bit of emotionality in there, some disappointment, some sadness, some grief, all of that kind of stuff, but just a lot of gratitude as well, especially if gratitude is something that you've enabled in your relationship. Again, all of this applies to casual relationships if you want it to. You don't have to do any of this stuff if you don't want to, but this is all the stuff that has worked for me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what we're going to do. You beautiful, wonderful, amazing human beings. I've said this in previous videos that I think I'll have a little bit of fun and go through some of the YouTube comments and answer some of your questions, read some of them out. I might do this if I remember in most videos, so we can build a bit of a beautiful connection with each other. Contentious underscore point underscore says, and he quoted Imogen from a video that she had made for the channel, quotes Imogen saying, "I really like getting effed." I believe Imogen would have said getting fucked. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. The comment says, "I might be pretty new here on the channel, but this line threw me for a loop." Yeah, we like to be a little bit, I don't know, a little bit raw. We don't try and keep things PC here. If that's not to your taste, absolutely amazing. If it is to your taste, absolutely amazing. But as I replied, that line is pretty tame for us here. Imogen has definitely opened up a lot more than she had in the past. She never would have spoken like that like several years ago. She's really come out of her shell. And the fact that she's even doing videos on the channel is absolutely mind-blowing and amazing to me. And I'm so unbelievably, I have so much reverence and admiration and respect for her because she was so scared to ever start coming out of her shell and put herself on camera. Even with me, she was really scared to start doing that. And the fact that she now does that like by herself, and by the way, the videos that she does, she comes up with a script, she comes up with a topic, she sits down and records it, she edits them all, she makes the thumbnails. She does 100% of that. I do like literally none of that. So the fact that she's that confident now and at that point, amazing. Mungfin01 says, and I'll just read the last bit, the actual question. Could you talk a little bit about breaking up with friends? Have you ever had to end a friendship? Yeah, a couple. And I didn't have to end them, I chose to. And that'll be important in a second, making that distinction. If so, how did the other person take it? Oh my God, isn't this amazing timing? Because I literally just did this video, the one that you're watching right now, about it's not really your responsibility how the other person takes it. You know, so if you're worried about them having a negative reaction, just try and be as honest as you can, try and be as kind and compassionate as you can. And then if they don't take it well, they don't take it well. Obviously, if it's a friend or even if it's a, you know, a sexual relationship or a deeper relationship, you obviously care about the other person, right? Like you don't want to hurt them and you would like them, or you would kind of, you try and do your best to help facilitate them taking it as positively as they can. But if they take it negatively, then they take it negatively. What bad thing happens if they have a negative reaction? What bad thing happens if somebody's hurt? People get hurt all the time. It's like constantly. People will get hurt because they go to the supermarket and they want to buy an apple, and the only apples that are available are like 5 different varieties, but not the exact type of apple that they want. And then they'll get really hurt, almost like a child. They'll throw a tantrum. Like people hurt themselves and get hurt by things constantly. That's why things like stoicism, which is your ability to be resilient and to be okay with reality, whatever happens, like to roll with the punches, so to speak, is so unbelievably beautiful and powerful, because it means I can go to the supermarket and they don't have my apple and I can go, that's cool, I'll try another type of apple and then I'm okay. Or someone breaks up with me and they're like, you know, and then I'm like, I'm a little sad, I'm disappointed, I would have loved to have kept seeing you, but it's okay. I'll do some letting go. I'll do some meditation. I'll talk to my friends about it, and eventually I'll be okay and I'll move on. Like that's why stoicism is so beautiful. So if the other person is hurt by ending a friendship or ending a relationship, then, you know, that's their responsibility. They're an adult. It's not sort of up to you to dictate or control every other person on the planet and how they react. You know, people are sometimes going to get hurt by something that you did, but as long as you're as kind and compassionate and honest as you possibly can be, what more are you supposed to do? Because you can kind of think through this and go, well, what am I supposed to do? Stay friends with someone I don't want to be friends with? Would that be kind to them? Like, do you want your friends to be friends with you? How would you feel if you found out that your friends don't actually want to be friends with you, but they just did it because they didn't want to hurt you? You'd probably be fucking angry. You'd probably be more hurt and more angry than if they had just told you, I don't want to be your friend. So sometimes the kindest thing you can ever do is end a friendship or end a relationship or stop seeing someone if you're no longer wanting to be there, or you're no longer wanting to have this dynamic with this person, this friendship or this relationship. It's kind of like that saying, and I don't use this saying very often because I think it can be misused, but it's like that saying, sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. And I don't use that saying because people often go, oh, so I can be unkind then. No, no, no. But like a better way of phrasing that is sometimes you'll be as kind as you possibly can be. And the other person will say, you're unkind, you're an asshole. And you go, okay, I tried really hard to be as kind as I possibly could be. I think I was kind. If you don't think I was kind, that's okay. You don't have to think I was kind. I'm not going to sit there and defend and try and make you believe that I'm a good person, because that's not kind. That's not nice to the other person. That's why I say, let the other person have their feelings. We don't like to have our feelings invalidated. If you're angry or hurt about something, you don't want someone to come along and say, you're not allowed to be angry. You shouldn't be hurt. So we as human beings, whatever we're feeling, we generally speaking want to be allowed to feel that thing. And so if somebody is really disappointed or hurt when you end a friendship or a relationship, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say, fine, you're allowed to feel that way, and I'm going to move on. And you can move on or you can not move on. That's up to you, but I'm moving on. All right, and we'll quickly read out one more comment because then I have to go, or I want to go. Fruity Suit. What a cool username. Thank you so much for sharing. My wife and I are personally moving in this direction. I believe this was a video where Imogen and I talked about open relationships and threesomes and stuff. So I guess that's what you mean you and your wife are doing. We've planned our first threesome in a couple of weeks. Man, exciting. One of my coaching clients just had his first threesome with his long-term girlfriend, and the two of them had an absolute blast. Man, he was an excited little puppy when he was like telling us about that. He was so unbelievably excited. He had a big smile on his face, and he said his girlfriend was just like so freaking into the idea, and it was a beautiful experience for both of them. So yeah, I'm excited for you too. If you haven't already, I have a threesome guide. I don't know if you've read through that. You can pay whatever you want for it. You can even pay $1 for it, but it covers like if you're nervous, if you're excited, like some fun things to do, how to handle any jealousy if that might come up or any feelings of insecurity. It's like the full guide on having threesomes, but sounds like you two are going to have a blast. I do feel like you guys did not touch enough on the topic of no sex with other guys. So if you're not sure what he's referring to there, Imogen and I, or I guess you could say Imogen doesn't have sex with other guys in our relationship, but we obviously date and sleep with women together. I'm very curious about the reason for that hard boundary. I wouldn't say it's a hard boundary. It's just not what I particularly want. And if she was to go and have sex with other men, I'd be okay with that. I'd be like, great, go do that. I don't know what I would do in that situation. I guess we'd play it by ear and talk about it. Maybe that would mean I continue to see her. Maybe it would mean I don't. I'm not really sure. It's not something that's come up. To be very clear, from the very start of the relationship, I think like 6 months into the relationship, she's like, I don't want to date other guys. And I was like, cool, that suits me. I would like it if you date me. Great, cool, let's do that. So I wouldn't say it's a hard boundary. You could say in the start of the relationship, it was more of a hard boundary. Sure. Where you say like the reason for it, do you need a reason for what you want? Like, do you get what I mean? There isn't really a reason that I can come up with. We could have this same discussion about like, I don't know, like why do Imogen and I sleep in separate beds? You could say that's like a hard boundary, but it's like, it's not a boundary. It's more just like we like sleeping in separate beds. It's amazing. It helps us with our sleep. So it's not really so much a boundary, more like we had a discussion early on where it was like, this is what I want in the relationship, and this is what you want in a relationship. Does that suit you? Yeah, that sounds amazing. Cool, let's build that. So yeah, it's not really like a boundary. And a lot of people think in terms of boundaries, they're like, and ultimatums. They're like, you can't do this in a relationship. I'm going to break up with you if you do this. No, that's never how our relationship has been. It's more just like, this is what I'm looking for. Would that suit you? Yeah, great. This is what I'm looking for. Would that suit you? Yeah, that sounds amazing. Cool, let's do it. You go on to say, I would definitely feel more challenged if my wife would like to pursue other guys, but as far as I could understand for you guys, it was also a challenge to be with other girls in the beginning. Yeah, Imogen had a fair bit of insecurity and stuff at the start, and we obviously just were as kind and compassionate as we could be. At every point, I just said, like, how do you feel? Is this what you want? She said, yeah, but it's challenging. I feel insecure and blah, blah, blah. And we talked through that, worked through that, and eventually got to a place where she's very secure in herself, and we have a lot of fun with that. And if that was ever not the case, we would have broken up. And there was a point where we broke up for, is it even a breakup? I guess so. We broke up for a day where she was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Because at that point I was dating and sleeping with women on my own, like apart from her. And she was like, I don't know if I can be in a relationship with someone who's like having sex with other people without me there. And we talked through it, and I was like, well, I don't know if I even want to do that anymore. I kind of prefer it when you're there with me. It's just that that's not what we've been doing up until this point. You know, I would go and sleep with other women to like by myself, and then I would then introduce them to Imogen, and we would have threesomes together. And so we had a conversation, and I was like, what if we just always see girls together? Is that something that you want? Like, would you want that type of relationship? And she's like, hell yeah, that'd be amazing. Like, I like doing that stuff. I think that I just want to find a relationship where the person either only sleeps with women with me there all the time, or I have a relationship that's monogamous, or I don't know, something else like that. And I was like, cool, sweet. Like, as long as you're happy with me doing this or with us doing this, and I'm happy with us doing this, do we want to do that? So then we did that. So yeah. You're going to say, is it not a double standard then? So I've covered this a lot, the topic of double standards. And I wrote a comment here. So if any of you are interested, you can go read this. I guess you can pause the video right now and read this. But yeah, double standards is a cute idea that people have in relationships. And I guess in life, the same way that the word hypocrite is used, where they're like, don't be a hypocrite, don't have double standards, you know. But man, like life is full of double standards. And when you actually start paying attention, there are double standards everywhere. You know, here's the biggest fucking most obvious one ever. If a teacher at school fucks a 15-year-old student of his, the world will lose their mind, right? We call that pedophilia. The guy will be in jail. If a female teacher fucks a 15-year-old, everyone goes like, that's amazing. Yeah, bro, fuck yeah. Like, there you go, that's a double standard. Is that not a double standard? If a man slaps a woman across the face, holy fuck, you better believe that the police are coming. FBI, like open up FBI. If a woman slaps a man, what do people say? I wonder what he did to deserve it. He probably deserved that. You know, there's like 1 billion double standards in the world. They exist everywhere. Here's another double standard. Generally speaking, in a relationship, the man, generally speaking, like in a traditional, conservative, I guess just a traditional dynamic relationship, the man will be the one that is expected to make slightly more decisions, and the woman will be the one that is expected to be slightly more agreeable. Is that a double standard? Fuck yes. There are just double standards everywhere. Like, and there's hypocrisy and there's inequality everywhere in a relationship. And you can kind of look to your own relationships, any of you that might be in one, and analyze every little part of your relationship and say, is it perfectly equal? Do you both do the dishes the exact number of times as each other every week? Do you both put the garbage or the trash out equally every single week without fail? Or has there ever been one time where one of you does it more than the other? Wrong, bad luck, you screwed up, it's not equal. And so if you go through your relationship, you will never find an equal relationship. People will obsess about the idea of equality, but it isn't actually a quality that you're seeking. What you're seeking is happiness. And when you're trying to remove double standards, like when you're saying, oh, we can't have any double standards, as if double standards would ever be a fucking bad thing. But when you're trying to remove double standards, what you're really trying to do there, like this sentence, is you basically saying, I just want to make sure my wife is happy, and I want to make sure I'm happy. And if we have a double standard, well, wouldn't that mean that we're not happy? It's like, why would that mean you're not happy? It might mean that you're unhappy if she or you are not happy with the double standard. But what if you are happy with the double standard? Like, what if you're both getting what you want? What if you're both benefiting from the relationship? What if it's bringing you a lot of beauty and there's no compromises and there's no sacrifices and you're not hurting because of the double standard? Like, what if you like the double standard? And anytime you sort of worry about a double standard, you're not asking the question, or when you blindly say, and not criticizing, you particularly for making this comment. This is a brilliant fucking question. I'm really glad you asked this. But when you sort of blindly just say like, oh, shouldn't you not have double standards? And you don't dig any deeper or think any deeper, you're kind of like ignoring what you or the other person might be wanting. You're not saying, are you happy? Am I happy? Are we both enjoying this? Is this a good thing? Is this benefiting our relationship? Another way to kind of think about that is the default assumption that a double standard is just automatically bad ignores what people might want. Like in this question, you didn't say, is Imogen happy? And I mean, watching the video shows you she's pretty happy, but like you could have asked that question, is Imogen happy? But you didn't. You said, isn't it a double standard? And so you see how you kind of like miss the happiness thing? You're missing the entire reason why you don't want a double standard, which is you're saying, I don't want a double standard because that would make us unhappy. So just jump straight to that. Just say, are you happy? And then your partner might say, well, yeah, I'm very happy. And then you go, oh, okay. Well, am I happy? And then, yeah, I'm happy. Oh. So why do we give a fuck whether or not there's a double standard or not? What has that got to do with happiness? Wasn't the goal of the relationship to be happy, to add happiness to my life and to her life? Wasn't that the point of the relationship? And so as long as we're adding to each other's lives, what do we give a shit if it's hypocritical or a double standard or it's not perfectly equal? So in this quest for equality, like for a relationship to be exactly equal and both parties to have exactly everything exactly the same, as if that was ever possible, it's not. But if that was ever possible, you kind of ignore the entire reason why you're having a relationship, which was to be happy, to add value to each other's lives. So I prefer to always bring it back to that question or those questions. Am I happy? Is she happy? Is the relationship benefiting my life? Is it benefiting her life? In other words, all of that is a way of saying, am I better off because I'm in this relationship? And is she better off because she's in this relationship? If that's true for both people, amazing. And if both people are very happy with everything that's happening, amazing. If there's something they're not happy with, you can sit down and talk about it. You can find solutions. Every problem has a solution. You don't need to compromise. You do not need to sacrifice. One person doesn't need to be unhappy in order for the other person to be happy. All of this is to say you can both have what you want if you sit down and talk about what you want and find ways to make that happen. So yeah, I would kind of let go if I was you. I mean, do whatever you want, but I've found it much more peaceful to let go of the idea of double standards in the first place. So has Imogen. We let go of this shit. We did a podcast like 3 years ago when we first, talked about this. So you can search on my Spotify. Just search on Spotify, Kill Your Inner Loser Double Standard. We literally did a podcast it was seriously like 3 years ago where we talked about this exact topic. We went balls deep on this. I think it was like even a 2-part series where we talked about double standards, way more detail than I am right here. But yeah, I ultimately don't worry about double standards. And people will have opinions about your relationship for sure. Like particularly if you put it out there in the way that Imogen and I do, people will be like, and I've had comments every now and then where someone's like, bro, this is a double standard. Like, so you get to bang girls with your girlfriend and she doesn't get to bang guys. I literally had someone ask that a while ago where they were like, how come, you have threesomes with girls together? How come you never have threesomes with guys together? Seems really unfair. Seems like a hypocritical and a double standard. Don't you think it would be fair if you every now and then had a threesome with a guy so that Imogen could be happy? And it's like, what the fuck? Like, why don't you ask Imogen and I what we want? That wasn't your question. Your question was like, you guys are being hypocritical. You should do something that you don't want to do, and she should do something that she doesn't want to do. And I haven't asked either of you what you want. I've just said that what you're doing is wrong and bad, and you should do something that you both don't want to do. I haven't asked either of you what you want. I've just made an assumption based on what I want. And I'm going to have an opinion on someone else's relationship. And you might find that people definitely do that. Like, particularly if you're going to be in an open relationship or you and your wife are going to have threesomes, there might be some people that have opinions about that. They might tell you that it's hypocritical, it's a double standard, it's unfair. And that's why I always bring it back to myself and my partner. Am I happy? Are you happy? Are you benefiting from the relationship? Am I benefiting from the relationship? And if the answer to all 4 of those questions is like, fuck yes, like an enthusiastic yes, not just like a yeah. If it's a yeah, then I would change something. We would change something. But if it's a hell yes, oh my God, are you kidding me? I don't want to change a thing. Like, I'm happy to keep improving things, obviously, but like, God damn, I'm really happy. If you and your wife are really happy, beautiful. I wouldn't worry so much about like double standards or equality or being perfect and equal and all of that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, the relationship is for happiness. As long as you and your wife are happy, I think that's beautiful. And again, other people might have opinions about that. That's beautiful. They can give you their opinions. Maybe you'll learn something from their opinion, maybe not. Maybe it'll start a conversation. Sorry, my phone just rang. That was Imogen saying, you're late, young man. We got to go. So I'll wrap this up in a second. I do understand that it ultimately comes down to both consenting to the format of the relationship. I would go further than that. No, it's not just consenting. Consent sounds like, yeah, I guess I'll put up with it. I would say it comes down to, are you both fucking happy and are you both benefiting from the relationship? I look at relationships as like a bonus to your life. I would build a beautiful life for yourself, your partner can build a beautiful life for herself. And then the relationship is there to add extra value to both of your lives. So I would always come back to, is the relationship adding to our lives? Are our lives like significantly better because of the relationship? If the answer is ever no, which it might be sometimes, people go through ruts, they go through challenges. Sorry. All right, I'll go. I sent her a text and said, I'll be down there in 10 minutes. So I go at like 5 or 10 minutes. All right. Yeah, I would always bring it back to like, am I happy in the relationship? Are they happy? Is the relationship benefiting both of us? And again, you might have other people tell you that the format of your relationship is wrong or hypocritical, or, as you yourself sort of asked, isn't it a double standard? And the answer to that is like, yeah, that's like my answer. Your question of like, is it not a double standard? Yeah. The onus is sort of on, I guess not you, but like your assumption here is like a double standard is a bad thing. It's like, why is it a bad thing? It's a bad thing if you think it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you don't want double standards in your relationship, which you don't have to have double standards in your relationship. But Imogen and I are quite happy to have a double standard in our relationship. In fact, we have 1,000 of them. Our entire relationship is built on double standards. I listen to her and mentor her 1,000,000,000 times more than she mentors me. That's a double standard. I listen to her when she's being very emotional, but if I'm ever emotional or sad, she sort of shuts down and doesn't feel able to facilitate that. So I go to my friends. Isn't that a double standard? Isn't she being a hypocrite, expecting me to listen to her and love her and handle her emotions, but she doesn't give me the same? Isn't that a double standard? Yeah, it is. Of course it is. And so our entire relationship is built on double standards. She cleans the kitchen behind me 1,000,000,000 times more than I do. She cooks for me all the time. I don't cook for her. I do most of the content and I do all of the coaching. So I bring in the vast majority of our money. Isn't that a double standard? We share a lot of our money. God, we could list out 1,000,000,000 things that are sort of double standards. I ask her to never wake me up, and I'm very like precious, or my sleep is very precious to me. And yet I wake her up all the fucking time. I will sometimes even just like go to her apartment and like give her a big cuddle and lay with her in bed and wake her up early in the morning. Isn't that a double standard? Aren't I a hypocrite? And so the entire relationship is built on double standards. But with each one of those double standards, we talk about it 1,000,000,000 times and say, are you happy with this? Am I happy with this? Would you like to change this? Would you like to improve it? Would you like to try something different? So yeah, I'd fully embrace the idea of your relationship is going to have double standards in it. Here's a double standard. You're a man, she's a woman. Why are you always the one that has to stick your penis in the vagina? How come she never sticks her penis inside your vagina? Oh, wait, it's a double standard. So relationships are kind of based on double standards. And I don't know you guys. Maybe you guys are into pegging and stuff like that. So maybe she does stick her penis in you. But yeah, relationships are kind of like built on double standards, man, because you're a different person to her. Like you got your own preferences and likes and dislikes. You have your own personality traits. She has her own personality traits. She has her own strengths and things that she's naturally good at. You have your own strength and things that you're naturally good at. And so again, I always bring it back to like, are you happy? Is she happy? Or is the relationship adding to your life? Is it adding to her life? And if the answer to any of those questions is no, you change things. So yeah, hope that gives you a little bit more understanding. Also, I wrote more down here. There's a couple of podcasts where I talk about this topic. I love this question, by the way, but yeah, anytime I see someone say, is it not a double standard? Usually my answer is like, yeah. And, or a favorite phrasing that we use in the coaching group a lot. When someone asks a question like this, we're like, is it a double standard? We're like, yeah, and that's okay. And if you don't think it's okay, by the way, like if you don't want a double standard, then you don't have to. So yeah, all of this is me doing what I want and Imogen doing what she wants. And as long as we're both happy with that and it's beautiful and it adds to our life, then amazing. So another way you could phrase that question, or an actual proper question, not a proper question, but like a more useful question would be, is Imogen happy and is Andy happy? And the answer to that is yes. And pretend Imogen was sitting right here now and she's like, yes, I'm happy. So pretend there's a cute little Imogen there. Maybe we'll Photoshop some 3D Imogen. Get fucked. I'm not going to do that. As always, ladies and gentlemen, love you all very much. If you would like any more help with anything at all, any coaching, I offer coaching. Links down in the description below. I will also leave a link, if I remember, to the threesome guide. If not, you can go to my website, killyourinnerloser.com, and I have a link at the top, big button for the threesome guide. As always, ladies and gentlemen, go out there and crush those goals and find ways to be happy in a relationship that you're in. You're allowed to be happy. Your partner's allowed to be happy. Who gives a fuck if there's double standards? There probably will be. Every relationship has double standards.